All right. So to get started, before we do anything in anything in Docusign, we're going to get started in Command. So I'm going to go to my opportunities, and that's our sales funnel that we help manage all of our potential sales. So I'm going to come over here. I like to come up here to all opportunities, and it's going to show my active opportunities. Now I've already gone through and created this opportunity 1234 Main Street. You can see here the name of my opportunity is 1234 Main Street Stark /Potts, which are the last names of my clients, -listing. And this is important because when you have your opportunity named in this specific way, it makes it much easier for the MCA office to double check which property it is that you are selling and your clients. So I recommend that you update your opportunity name to be in the same format. Understandably so, when you're working with buyers, you won't have a property when you first start working with them because they won't be under contract yet. So as you go through the process, you be sure to update that opportunity name. You can do that here in general information, click on the pencil, and then you can update that opportunity name here. Now, before I go into Docusign, I want to update the property information right here in my details tab. And the benefit of this is the more information I can add, the more information that I can add in Command, the more information that will be able to be pulled into Docusign. So to make it just a little bit easier as I'm going through the process of getting all my documents together. So I'm going to just update this so it's easier. Click Save. So there's my listing address. Now I'm going to go to the Documents tab. And you'll notice here on the left-hand side, it says Pick Checklist. So I'm going to select Checklist, and we're going to Residential. And then when I do that, it's going to show me these lists of all the documents that I'm likely going to need for this transaction. So for today's training, we're going to walk through a listing. The reason I choose to do a listing for the Docusign training is because of the seller's property disclosure, community association disclosure, and lead-based paint exhibit. Those three documents are very important for our clients to fill out. But everything we talked through this morning is going to be the same process if you are working with a buyer. We will also walk through a purchase and sale agreement as well, knowing that that's going to be one of the most important documents you use in your real estate career. So here's my list of potential documents I may need. You'll notice here in the listed right here where it says F101 listing agreement, and it has a DS square right there. Same thing for seller's property disclosure. That DS stands for Docusign. And that means that when you start your Docusign room, those forms will be automatically added to that room. Knowing that they are going to be needed every single time you have a transaction, just to save you a little bit of time, we've set it up so that way it'll just go ahead and add that into your room so you don't have to go search for it and add it yourself. You don't have to do anything with this. It's not going to, it just is letting you know that this will be pulled into your room automatically. Now to create your Docusign room, we're going to click on Start a Transaction up here in the top right-hand corner. It is very important that you click Start a Transaction in Command. The reason is by clicking Start a Transaction, the system will then create a new room in Docusign, and that room will be linked to the opportunity in Command. If you do not click Start a Transaction and you create a room directly in Docusign, you will never be able to retroactively connect that room to your opportunity. So always be sure to click Start a Transaction. When you click Start a Transaction, it will open up a new window for us to log into. So I'm going to click Start a Transaction right here. You'll see it's thinking. It's going to pop up a new window, and it's going to have me log in. I want to point out that because it's a new window, if you have pop-up blocker on, it may prevent Docusign from opening correctly. You can check usually in your URL bar up here if there's a little red square that says pop-up blocked. Always select, always allow for Command as well as Docusign. So I'm going to log in, click log in. And now it is going to take me directly into my room that I've now created in Docusign. You'll notice up here in the top left-hand corner, we have the name of our room, which is 1234 Main Street Stark Potts listing. And this is the same name as my opportunity in Command. So it pulls that naming convention directly over into Docusign. Below that, it has my address of 1234 Main Street, Atlanta 30342. And it pulled that information from the property details tab. So that's why it's important to put that information in Command, because it does pull over into Docusign. It even added my expected closing date of 11/30/2021. And you'll see here, I have the seller listing agreement and the seller's property disclosure that have already been added to my room, knowing that those are going to be forms that are required for me to submit for compliance if I have a listing. Now, today's training, we're going to start as if this is the very first time we have entered Docusign. In order for you to have access to the GAR forms and be able to edit those GAR forms, you must confirm your NERDS ID. This is what tells the system that you are a member of a realtor board and you have access to the copywritten Georgia Association of Realtors forms. There are two ways that you can confirm your NERDS ID. The first is right here in this Documents tab, and we'll walk through that. And then the other is in Preferences. And the reason I want to walk through both is in that way, if something were to ever happen to your NERDS ID and you needed to update it, you would know where to go and how to do it. So since we're here in the Documents tab, I'm going to go ahead and confirm your NERDS ID. To do that, I'm going to click Add in the top right-hand corner and select Docusign Forms. It's going to give me a pop-up window. Oh no. Sorry, let me go back. We're going to quick detour because I didn't delete this earlier like I thought I had. There we go. So I'm just going to go right back to where we were as if nothing ever happened. Perfect. Here we go. So pretending that didn't just happen, to confirm your NERDS ID the first time you use Docusign, click Add in the top right-hand corner and select Docusign Forms. It's going to give us a pop-up window with these two images. We're going to select the Realtor logo for the National Association of Realtors. Then it's going to ask for our 9-digit NERDS ID. Now, I don't know my NERDS ID. Thankfully, there's this handy-dandy link right here for Find Your NERDS ID. So I'm going to click on that. And this is going to pop up a new browser tab. And I'm going to be able to use my last name, my email address, and or my real estate license number to look up my NERDS ID. So I'm going to use my last name and license number because it's just a little bit easier. Now make sure that this is the same last name that you used when you registered with the Board of Realtors. If you got married or divorced or had any type of name change, make sure you use the name that you signed up with. I'm going to click Submit. Now, here's my 9-digit NERDS ID. So I'm just going to highlight this here. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to, let me close this tab, come back over here to Docusign. I'm going to paste in my NERDS ID. Again, I'm going to use my last name here. Use the last name that you used when you created your membership, your Atlanta Realtor Association membership. And then here for association, we are going to select the Georgia Association of Realtors. Now, while I am a member of the Atlanta board, that also means that I'm automatically a member of the Georgia Association of Realtors and thus the National Association of Realtors. So I need to have approval to have access to the GAR form. So I'm going to select the Georgia Association of Realtors here. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom because this is in the most ridiculous order of associations. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and then just kind of go up to the top a little bit and look for the Georgia Association of Realtors right there. Perfect. It's in no alpha. It's not in alphabetical order. It's not, I don't know what order it's in. So I'm going to select Georgia Association of Realtors, click Validate. was going to say you have validated 2 associations. If this is your very first time confirming your NERDS ID, you will have a secondary pop-up window here asking you to accept the terms and conditions of using the GAR copywritten forms. Click accept. And then when you get this window here where it shows select forms, you will now have access to the GAR forms right here. Any questions on that? All right. The second way,
I'm sorry. Can you just run through it quickly one more time?
Yeah. So what you do is you come up here to go to add, and then you would select Docusign Forms here.
Okay.
And then you'd get a pop-up window. It's not going to show, since I just confirmed it, it's not going to pop up here, but you would go through the steps of selecting the National Association of Realtors, then using your 9-digit NERDS ID and confirming the Georgia Association of Realtors, and then click confirm.
Okay, thanks.
Now, the second way that you can confirm your NERDS ID is in preferences. So up here in the top right-hand corner, if you click on your image or your initials, and then select preferences, and then over on the left-hand side, I'm going to click on integrations. And then here it's going to show me my Docusign form settings, my 2 providers. So I have the National Association of Realtors and company forms. If I did not have National Association of Realtors there, I could click on add provider here. And I would then be able to select National Association of Realtors, and it would go through the same exact steps as what we just did moments ago in the Documents tab. So if anything were to happen to your NERDS ID and you needed to reconfirm it, this is where you could come and do that. All right, so now that our NERDS ID is all set up, I'm going to go back to our room and right where we left off. So once you've confirmed your NERDS ID, you will never have to do that. You should never have to do it again. It should just be one and done. Even every year, it'll be the same thing. You with the new documents that come out, you won't need to worry about confirming that NERDS ID again. So when you create a room from now on, it'll drop you into your Documents tab. My first instinct is to be, oh, I'm going to go start updating my forms. Here's my listing agreement. I can just start typing everything in. Don't do that. What you're going to want to do first is once you get dropped into your Docusign room in the Documents tab, I'm going to click up here on the Details tab, and I'm going to come over here. I'm going to make sure that all this information is filled in correctly. It is the information on the Details tab that is going to pre-populate and auto-populate our GAR form. So our listing agreement, our disclosures, purchase and sale agreement. So we want to make sure everything in here is correct. Now you'll notice down here for location, it has pulled in a handful of information. And then over here for seller, it's pulled in my client's name and email addresses. So that's why having all of that information in command is important, because it will automatically pull over and just save you a little bit of time in Docusign. So you'll notice it's this page is set up in 2 parts. The left-hand 3/4 of the page is going to be all the information about the specific property. And then the right-hand column is going to be about the participants in this transaction. So the seller, the buyers, the listing agent, and the buyer's agent. Before we do anything to our documents, we want to edit. So I'm going to come up here to Actions. Oh, hold on, what are they? Did they just update this? Here we go. Let's action. Oh, here we go. Here's the edit button. I was like, that is very strange. So I'm going to click the edit button. Now this gives me the ability to go through and edit all of the information. So we'll start with the information on the left 3/4 of the page. Our name of our room. I'm going to leave that alone so it matches what I have in command. You can fill in as much of the information that you have. If you don't have a piece of information at this exact moment, you can always add it later or update it. So I'm going to select USD, not under contract. If you have your MLS number, you can add that here. Origin of lead and company room status, you don't need to update that. Address, so here it is, 1234 Main Street, Atlanta. This is in Fulton County. I will select state is Georgia. Zip code, property type. This is going to be single family detached. Year built. I'm going to select 2006. Let me plug this on the list. And then scrolling down to special circumstances, there are no special circumstances, so I can leave that blank. Listing date, we are going to list it today on the 15th. We are going to give this through November 30th. And our original listing amount is 375,000. So I'm just going to type that in all of these listing amount boxes. Scrolling down for offer details. Since we were just preparing a listing, I don't have an offer yet, so I don't need to put that information in there. Same thing with highest bid confirmation. We haven't had any offers. We aren't scheduled to close, so I don't need to do anything with closing details. And then the additional information, I don't need to fill that out, or property details. I don't need that. So now that we've filled in all of the information that we have to date for the property, let's go through and update the participants' information in this page. So over here in the right-hand column, you can see we have seller one. We have Tony Stark, which is my one seller. Here's his cell phone number and email address that pulled in directly from command. It is it is crucial that you put your client's contact information in the details tab if it does not pull over automatically. 9 times out of 10, Docusign will pull over the information from command, but sometimes it won't. So you need to come in here and double check to make sure that it's in here. If you do not have your client's contact information in the details tab, you will not be able to send them pre-tagged roles in an envelope to then sign the documents. At the very least, you need your client's name and their email address. That's it. They need the email address so Docusign knows where to send the documents for signature. So here we have seller one, so Tony Stark, cell phone number, email address, good to go. Scrolling down, we have seller two. Here's Pepper Potts, and here's her email address, which is just my personal one. And then scrolling down, we have listing agent. Here's myself, my number, email address, my company name. Now here it's going to automatically pull in Keller Williams Realty First Atlanta. However, Lynn and Alita confirmed you can remove Realty from the name, so it can just be Keller Williams First Atlanta. Not a big deal, but the way that the spacing on the GAR forms works isn't a ton. So if you include Realty in the name, First Atlanta will cover up some of the other text. Not a big deal, but if you think of it, you can delete that. We have our address, so city, Atlanta, zip code, everything's good to go. If I were co-listing this with another agent, I could put his or her information in here, but I'm not. It's just me, so I'm going to leave this blank. Scrolling down, here we have buyer one. Now, if you were working with buyers, you would have left all the information about the seller and the listing agents blank, and you would have come down here to fill out the buyer information. But since today I'm working with a listing, I'm going to leave this blank because I don't know anything about the buyers. I don't even have an offer yet. Scrolling down, same thing with buyer two, and then we have buyer agent one. So if you were the buyer agent, you'd want to put in your information. When you go under contract and you start co-oping with an agent, you can put his or her name and information in here. However, I'm going to say this now and I'm going to say it again later on. I do not recommend ever sending documents to co-op agents for signature in Docusign directly. And I'll explain why, and I'll show you why in just a few minutes. So even if you put in your co-op agent's name and contact information, I would still recommend downloading any of those documents and sending them directly as PDFs to that co-op agent. It's just a weird kink with the way that the Docusign system works, that it's just more optimal to do it that way. So scrolling down, we have buyer two, buyer agent two, and then we are good to go. So once we have updated all this information, I'm going to click save down here in the bottom right-hand corner. My room has been updated. So now that all my information about my property and my contacts and the clients have been updated, now we can go to the Documents tab and we can start actually filling out some of these documents. Now, I already have my listing agreement and I have my seller's property disclosure, but I'm missing the community association disclosure because there is an HOA for this neighborhood. And let's talk through the purchase and sale agreement, since that is going to be commonly used. So we'll add that as well. To add documents to your room, come up here to Add, select Docusign Forms. Now there's two sets of information over here on the left-hand side. We have groups and libraries. Libraries are going to be all of the documents. So if you want to come here to click on GAR, Georgia Association of Realtors, it's going to load all 180 documents. So you can search for the name of this. So I need Community Association Fees Disclosure. So I can select that here. Then I can also type in F201 to search for my purchase and sale agreement. So you can search either by the name or the form number. I would recommend that you get comfortable with the form numbers because let me go ahead and select this, because if I were to type in seller's property disclosure, it's going to pull up 4 different documents. So you just have to pay very close attention to make sure that you're selecting the right one, because this is for condos, land lots, and new construction. So I've selected those 2 documents up here. It says selected 2. I can click on them and it'll let me know what those 2 selected documents are, so I can just double check. I would recommend that you go, when you're adding documents, add as many as you can at one time. It'll end up taking a bunch of time to having to do this multiple times and having the system load. Up here, we have groups, and these are groups of documents that the office and I have set up that you are likely to use in a transaction, depending on if you are working with a buyer or a seller. So here you can click on Listing Packet, and it's going to pull over, it's going to show all of these documents. Let me get rid of that seller's property disclosure. It's going to show all of the documents that you are likely going to need when working with a seller. And they're here so you don't have to go through and search throughout the entire library. You can just find the ones that you need here. This is not an exhaustive list, and the likelihood is you probably will need to search in the library for another form, but this should just help you save some time and ease. Same thing with buyers here. Here are most of the forms that you are going to need when working with a buyer. Just to make it more simple. So now that I've selected my 2 documents, I'm going to click Add Selected, and it's going to add these documents to the room. You'll notice that they've automatically been added into the Room Docs folder. The Room Docs folder is the default folder for the Documents tab. Anytime you add a new document to a room, or you've received a signed, finished, completed copy of a document, it's going to default into this Room Docs folder. One thing to keep in mind with Docusign is that Lynn and Alita are never going to look at your Docusign room, which is a blessing, but can also be a curse, because that means you can organize and set up your room any which way that you please. Some people want to have it super organized with a bunch of different folders. Some people are going to be like, all right, I just need all the documents here however I want. Either is fine. If you would like to create multiple folders to help organize your documents, which I would recommend, to add folders, you can come up here to Actions and select Add Folder. And I'm going to create a folder for my listing agreement. So I'm going to click Create. And now I have my listing agreement folder with no documents in there. Now, there are 2 ways that you can move documents from one folder to another within the same room. The first way is roll your mouse over a document icon and then select the radio button that appears in the top left-hand corner. Now, when you select a document, this toolbar will appear at the top of the gray area of the page, and I can select the Move icon. If you just roll your mouse over the different icons, it'll tell you what it is. Select Move, select a folder in current room, select Listing Agreement, Move. Now it will have, the page will reload, and now that document is in my Listing Agreement folder. If you want to, that's great to use, especially if you want to move multiple documents. But if you just have one or two, you can also just roll your mouse over the document, hold your mouse down, and drag it into the desired folder. And it's that easy. So I'm going to do the same thing with the community association disclosure. There we go. So now we have my room set up how I like to have it organized. Any questions so far on adding documents, the Docusign libraries, or moving them around within different folders? All right. So now that we've added all of our documents, let's start updating them. To update documents, all you have to do is click on the document that you want. So let's start with the listing agreement. Docusign is going to load that document. Here we go. So you'll notice that some of the information has been pre-populated. That is the information that we had added in the details tab. It's not exhaustive, but it does help us save some time so we don't have to go through and manually type that in on every document. Now we're just going to go through and fill in any missing information that we need to add. Just start at the top of the document and we'll work our way down and we'll fill in any of the pieces of missing information. So here we have our address, tax parcel ID. I would just get this from the tax records, but I'm just going to put a made up number there. A legal description. I would always recommend selecting B1 attached as an exhibit here too. It's going to be the most official. You can always get your limited warranty deeds or any of the legal description information from our alliance partners. You can email attorneys@cb.law and they will get that to you within a couple hours, any time of day, any day of week. If you do not have one, a backup here is the deed book and page that you can use, and you can get that information from the tax records as well. Scrolling down, we have our list price. It is pre-populated the list price of $375. You'll notice that there are not any commas in that purchase or in that list price number. When Docusign was going through and mapping all of the fields, the way they set this one up, it does not include commas. So just be mindful that you don't put any extra zeros in there. We have our commencement date. So today, we'll just give this today of October. Today's the 15th, 2021. And our agreement ending date is, let's do December. I'm sorry, no, I did November 30th, 21. Next, we have our marketing. And so I'm going to advertise this listing on FMLS, Georgia MLS, and KWLS. One thing I do want to point out here really quickly as we go through this morning is this training is on how to use Docusign and how to fill in the information. It is not a training on what is the correct information to put in a GAR form. Please lean on Lynn and Alita if you have any questions on what you should be putting in the forms. And Alita teaches contract class every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. and she'll be able to answer any of those specific types of questions. So scrolling down here, we have our marketing commencement date. So we are going to commence marketing that today as well. So let's do October 15th, 2021. And we'll say this will be done within 5 days of that date. So I'm going to scroll through, fill in the rest of the information. All right. I have negotiated a 6%, and I agreed to pay half of that to the co-op broker. Don't need anything here. I've negotiated a 90-day protection period, agency, brokerage. Our office does not offer dual agency or sub agency, and the seller does not consent to the broker acting in a dual agency capacity. No special circumstances. The seller does authorize the broker to assist in negotiations. Scrolling down. Just keep scrolling through all this wonderful text. All right, so now we have our brochures. So the brochures are just additional information about the home buying and selling process. recommend that you provide the relevant ones to your clients. So if you want to include any of these. And all these are found in the buyer's packet group, and they are all loaded in the GAR library as well. We have exhibits and addenda. So if we had selected legal description, we could select this. If we'd added that as our limited warranty deed, we can add that legal description here. Any special stipulations that you like to add to your listing agreement, you can add here. All you have to do is just click in the box and you can start typing in your stip. You can add multiple steps, more and more. So it's just that easy to start typing in there. There's a fair amount of space here, so you should likely be able to get all of your stipulations in. However, in the event that you can't, there is the additional stipulations page, and you can check that box and add that stipulation page to your room. So a stipulation, again, I would confirm and double check this with Lynn and Alita if you ever have questions with the stipulation. But an example of a stipulation might be, let's say you're working with a seller and you agree to list the house at $375. But you can go ahead and you've talked this out with your client. You can write a stipulation that says all parties acknowledge and agree that if the home is not under contract or in active negotiations by 3 weeks of listing, all parties agree to reduce the sales price by $10,000. In the event that 3 weeks from then, we are still not under contract or negotiation, everyone agrees to another $10,000 reduction. That stipulation then gives you permission, if at that 3 week mark, you're not under contract or negotiating, to just go ahead and reduce the sales price. You don't have to then have a whole nother conversation. Or a stipulation could be something along the lines of all parties acknowledge and agree. The listing agent recommends the seller do a home warranty, a pre-listing inspection, and provide home warranty or something. I don't know. Just in that way, you can say, look, I recommended it. You don't have to do it, but it's in there. You read it and agreed to it. So a bunch of different options that you have. All right. So scrolling down. Now we get to our acceptance page. So here you can see our clients' names and email addresses. Good to go. Scrolling down here is my information. Now, not all the fields are filled out, which is kind of frustrating, but there is a workaround, which is a Docusign 2.0 training. So I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to fill in the remaining information. Let's do that really quickly. Now, the nice thing is when you add information, 531 in here, so if I add it on this form, it is going to automatically add it to every other GAR form with the same boxes. So the system knows that this license number box here is mapped to the same license number box that will be on an amendment document or a purchase and sale document. So it just makes it easier. So once I have everything updated, I can click Save and Close either down here or at the top of the screen, Save and Close. It's a big yellow button. So I'll click that. Now it's going to save all those updates that I've made. Perfect. So now we've filled out our listing agreement. Any questions about what we just went through on the listing agreement? All right. So now that we've done that, let's jump into the seller's property disclosure. Now, the disclosure forms are ones I want you to take pay special attention to because they are unique. So I'm going to open up the seller's property disclosure. Up here we have our exhibit. Since we are not under contract yet, we don't need to fill in this because this is not an exhibit yet to an actual contract. You'll notice here we have our property address information automatically added. Again, this is from the details page. I'm not missing any information there. Scrolling down, here we have all the places to fill in the seller's property disclosure. But you'll notice there are no boxes, there are no text boxes here, there are no check boxes. There's nothing for me to fill out. So you may think, oh no, the seller's property disclosure is not working properly. Wrong. The seller's property disclosure is working correctly. You and I as agents are not authorized to fill in any disclosures on behalf of our clients. Our sellers need to be the ones that fill in this information. So because of that, we do not have any fields here that we can fill in or check. So we just want to double check the document here and go through it and make sure that there aren't any missing fields that I do need to update. But all this information on here will be filled in by my seller client. But I just want to give it a quick review. Perfect. Make sure I'm not missing anything. We come down here. There are clients' names. Good to go. I'm going to click Save and Close. So click that. Boop. And that was the seller's property disclosure. So now I'm going to open up the community association disclosure. And again, very similar. The date or the address information is already input, pre-populated here, but I don't have an offer yet, so I can leave that and the exhibit information blank. And then scrolling down again, no text boxes, no check boxes, nothing for me to fill in because this information needs to come solely from my seller. But again, I just want to give it a quick review to make sure that there isn't any information that I do need to add. Scrolling through, everything looks good to go. Click Save and Close. So those disclosures are super simple because I didn't actually have to do anything, but just keep in mind that all the fields on those forms are mapped to your seller client. Any questions about filling in the listing agreement documents before we jump into the purchase and sale document?
I have a question.
Yep.
With your listing agreement, is it possible to put and save information in the bottom half where you put the agency numbers, all of that? Can you have a form that you've already put that in so you don't have to do it every time?
Yes.
Okay.
That is kind of more of a Docusign 2.0. I do have a training on that. And there's a video that on the First Atlanta YouTube channel that walks.
Okay.
It's really simple. We don't talk about it today, but yes, it is very possible. Okay. Thanks. You're welcome. So now that we've filled out our listing agreement, let's walk through the purchase and sale agreement. I understand this isn't a normal workflow, given that this example, I'm the listing agent. I traditionally wouldn't be the one to fill out the purchase and sale agreement, but I do want to walk through that today, so that way you are familiar with it. So I'm just going to click on the purchase and sale to open it up. And again, we're to start at the top of the document and work our way down, filling in the information, pretending as if I'm actually going to be writing an offer. So we'll start at the top with our offer date. So I'm going to put today's date. It's going to give me the option. I can just click the 15th here, and there we go. It adds the date. One thing you want to keep in mind is most of the date fields will have the ability, you can select the calendar like that. However, if it doesn't, be sure to add any date in Docusign in the numerical format, in this format here. So 10/15/2021. If you type out October 15, 2021, it will cause an error and potentially not save any of the information that you just put into your document, which would be very frustrating. So we're just going to go through here and we're going to fill in and update any information as needed. So our address is good to go, our MLS number. So here's my pretend MLS number, my tax parcel ID number that I made up right there. My legal description. So I have it attached as an exhibit here too, because I have a copy of the limited warranty deed. Scroll down, we have purchase price. So we have the listing price of this home at $375,000. So if I were the buyer's agent, I would want to do, let's do 365. That's my offer. And we want them to pay $7,000 in seller's contribution to closing costs. Closing date, it's going to default to the 30th because that's what I put in there. But you know what? I think what today is the 15th. Let's try to close on 11/15. So that way it gives us the traditional 1 month. We're going to take possession at closing. Holder of earnest money. We're going to make this KWFA. Our closing attorney, I'm going to select Campbell and Brannon. And again, I'm just using a lot of abbreviations this morning just for time, but I would recommend actually typing everything out. Earnest money will be delivered by check. And we'll do, let's do 3,600 within 3 days of binding. Inspection and due diligence, I'm going to go negotiate 10 days for due diligence. Lead-based paint was not attached because the home was not built prior to 1978. I think I selected 2006 for today's example. Here we have seller broker automatically adds in my information here for Keller Williams First Atlanta. I'm going to select I'm representing the seller as a client. And then the buyer brokerage, let's just select Harry Norman. And that agent is representing their client as a client. Don't have any material relationship. And I'm going to give this offer until 12 p.m. on 10/16/2021. So there is most of the information for my offer. I'm going to continue to scroll down and fill in anything that I need to include. Just keep scrolling. Perfect. Now we get to our exhibits and addenda. Here we want to check all the exhibits that we are including with our purchase and sale agreement. For whatever reason, I don't understand, but the all cash sale exhibit always is checked. I think that was just a mistake on Docusign's behalf. So I'm going to uncheck that, but I'm going to include the seller's property disclosure, and I'm going to make that exhibit A. Then we have our community association disclosure. We're going to make that exhibit B. Then we have our legal description that we've attached. So I'm going to make that exhibit C. And then any other exhibit you can go through and check and add a corresponding exhibit letter. If you are a buyer's agent, you will likely include your loan or financing exhibit as well. So here we have our special stipulations. So similar to the special stipulations on a listing agreement, you can add any of those here. And a special stipulation for purchase and sale agreement may be something like all parties acknowledge and agree that the seller agrees to remove all trash from the side yard by 3 days prior to closing. Failure for the seller to clean up trash in side yard can result in termination of contract or the seller paying an additional $5,000 in closing costs. Something like that. You can put in whatever stipulation you want. If you have questions on the stipulations, definitely reach out to Lynn and Alita. Alita is a licensed lawyer in the state of Georgia, so she can help you with any of those as well. Also, alliance partners, so our closing attorney partners, if you have any questions on writing stipulation, escalation clause, those have been really popular the last couple months. If you need help writing one or need one, Campbell and Brannon, McManamy, and McMichael and Gray all have versions of that you can use. So just reach out to them. But you can just type in here your stipulations. Pretty simple. Now, for whatever reason, and I don't understand this, when the Georgia Association of Realtors updated their documents this past year, this is the only space they made for special stipulations. I don't understand. It is so tiny. In the past, it used to be a full page of stipulations on its own. So that being said, if you have a bunch of stipulations, you may want to go ahead and add the special stipulations pages attached. Some way you can put them there. If you just have a couple stipulations and it It won't fit all here when you're typing it, but it's not that much and you really don't want to have a whole nother page to add. I will show you a trick in the envelope where we can add text boxes and make the font smaller, just as a quick tip. So I have all my stipulations there. Scrolling down, we get to our seller acceptance information. So here we have our clients' names and email addresses and my other seller and email address. Now, traditionally, I do not like to share my client's contact information with my co-op agents. I'm sure that 9 times out of 10, that co-op agent is going to be very respectful of the relationship that I have and that brokerage agreement that I have with my clients. However, I don't want a chance that I'm now working with someone that it does not uphold the same level of ethical standards that I do. So historically, I would want to be like, oh, I'm just going to go here and I'm going to delete my client's email address. Do not delete your client's contact information off of the purchase and sale agreement. If you change or delete any of the information on the pre-populated fields on any form in Docusign, it will change and or delete that information from the details tab. So if I were to delete my client's email address here, it would remove the email address from the details page. So when I go to email this document to my client, he will not have an email address to send it to, and thus I will not be able to email it to him. So do not delete it from the purchase and sale agreement. I will show you a trick on how to block his email address, and that way the co-op agent would not be able to see it. So here we have our client's name and contact information. Here is all my information. It's filled out. I'm just going to add in my fax number here. Perfect. And you could come over here and you could fill in all the information for the co-op agent. I would recommend that if you are writing an offer that you do fill in the information for that co-op agent. Just one small little thing, less work for them to do to help make your offer stand out. So now that I've completed all this, I'm going to click Save and Close. Any questions on filling out any of the documents that we have talked through this morning? All right. Now, once we have updated all of our documents, now we have to send them for signature to our clients. The way that you send documents for signature in Docusign is through an envelope. The way that Michael New explained envelopes to me, and which I really like, so I like to share this example, is he said, think of envelopes in Docusign like a manila envelope in real life. Let's say you've gone through, you've printed out all of your GAR forms, you filled them in with pen, and you stapled them and organized them. But now you just have to wait till you see your client. So you put them in a manila envelope on the corner of your desk. Then when you see your clients, you take that manila envelope and you hand it to them and say, please review and sign these documents. The manila envelope is just to help organize and hand them, transport them to my clients. Envelopes in Docusign are the same thing. They're just there to help you organize and email them over. There are 2 ways that you can create envelopes. The first way is when you are in your Docusign Documents tab. You can roll your mouse over the document icon, select the documents that you would want to include in your envelope that you want to send for signature. So let's say I wanted to send these 2. I can then roll my mouse over the icons up here in the toolbar and select Create Envelope. That would then create an envelope with these 2 documents already added to it. That is option number 1. Option number 2 is to come up here to the Envelopes tab, and we'll walk through the process from scratch of creating an envelope. So I'm going to create a new envelope here. So I'm going to select New. And then just like everything in Docusign, we'll start at the top and work our way down, filling in the information. So envelope name, it's going to default to Please Docusign. However, I highly recommend that you update this envelope name to something that will mean something to you. Throughout a transaction, you're probably going to send 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, potentially 100 envelopes. Depending on how many offers you have to submit, how many amendments, any back and forth, you're going to be sending a lot of envelopes, and you want to be able to keep track of them so you know which envelope is related to which document. So I'm going to rename this 1234 Main Street exclusive seller listing agreement and purchase and sale. Now I'm using abbreviations here because this is just an internal name. My clients aren't going to see this. So, but I want to be able to say, okay, this is for 1234 Main Street. Below that, we have our documents, adding documents to the envelope. If I had added the two documents previously directly from the Documents tab, they would already be here. But I'm going to click on Room Docs to add documents, and this is going to show me all the documents that I have in my room. So I have my community association disclosure, my seller's listing, exclusive seller listing agreement, purchase and sale, and seller's property disclosure. So I'm going to click Add Selected, and it's going to add all four of those documents. So we'll give those a second to load. Now, in addition to these GAR forms, we also have to send the Rawls Group affiliated marketing and wire fraud prevention disclosures. Those documents are set up as a template. So to add them to our envelope, we're going to click use a template here. And then I'm going to select shared with me. And this is going to show all the our templates that the MCA office has created for us. So let's give this a second to load. All right. So I'm going to scroll through here, and I notice I have a buyer-affiliated marketing disclosure and a buyer-wire fraud disclosure. I'm going to continue to scroll down, and I see I have a seller version of the same two documents. Now, they are the same actual documents with the same information. However, you want to select the version of the disclosures based on which side of the transaction you are working, because the client signatures are mapped to either the buyer role or the seller role. So I'm going to select seller. If I were to have accidentally selected buyer, when I go to send this for signature, there will not be any signature lines for my clients because they are not buyers. They are set up as seller 1 and seller 2. So I'm going to select those two disclosures and click Add Selected. I'm going to add those to my envelope. All right, so now we have all six documents that I want to send for signature, but they're just in alphabetical order. I want to put these in a very specific order for my clients. Knowing that I'm sending a listing agreement as well as an offer, I want to make sure that my clients have already signed the listing agreement before we ever review and sign an offer. To reorganize the order of the documents, you have to do it here at this portion of creating an envelope. You will not be able to edit or rearrange any of the documents later on. So to do that, just roll your mouse over the document icon, click your mouse down, hold it down, and drag that document into the position that you want. So we're going to start with our listing agreement. Then I want my seller's property disclosure, then community association disclosure. Then I want my other wire fraud and affiliated marketing, and then my purchase and sale. So now I have them in the correct order that I want my clients to sign them in. So leave them as that. I'm going to scroll down, and now we're going to add recipients to the envelope. So these are going to be the people that receive these documents to review and sign. To add recipients, I'm going to click Add Recipient here, and there's a drop-down menu. It gives us three options: pre-tagged roles, room participants, and email address. If pre-tagged roles is an option from the drop-down menu, always 100% of the time, always select pre-tagged roles. It is very important that you select pre-tagged roles because all of the signature fields, initial fields, and checkboxes and everything that our clients need to fill out are mapped to those pre-tagged roles on the details page. If by chance you select room participants, you will have to manually add every single signature field, initial field, checkbox, text field, everything. And that'll take up so much time, an unnecessary amount of time. So if pre-tagged roles is ever an option, always select pre-tagged roles. 9 times out of 10, when agents call me with issues with Docusign, it's because they've selected room participants incorrectly and they're confused as to why they have to add signature fields. So I'm going to select pre-tagged roles. It's going to give me this pop-up window with all of the roles that are included on all of the documents that I'm sending for signature. I am just going to select the information for the people that I actually want to send for signature. So we're going to send to seller 1. So I'm going to select seller 1. Then I'm going to come over here to the right-hand side for recipient, and I'm going to select my seller 1 as Tony Stark. Now it's pulling in his name and information from that details page. It is important that when you are working with 2 sellers, that you have a conversation over who is going to be responsible for filling in the disclosures. Because whoever is mapped as seller 1 is going to be the one that has the right and permission to fill in the seller's property disclosure, community association disclosure, and any other disclosure. Seller 2, I'm going to select, and this will be Pepper Potts. Now it's nice because seller 2 can then go through and review all of the information that seller 1 put in those forms. Then we have listing agent, and I'm going to select myself. Now your name may be in this drop-down list twice. That's fine. Just pick whichever one you want. It's both the same. So I'm going to select Nicholas Cord. So once I have my 3 contacts, I'm going to click Add Selected. And we'll give it just a second to load all of those contacts. Perfect. So there's a handful of information here with our recipient. So we're going to talk through it before we move on. To the left of each one of our recipients is a box with the number 1 in it. That box designates the signing order of these documents. The system will default to 1, which means everybody has the ability to sign the document at the same time. However, I want my clients to sign in a specific order. Some agents like to sign first before the documents ever go to their clients. Some agents want to sign after their documents after their clients sign the documents. If you want to reorder the signing order, just click into the box here, highlight the number, and change it to the signing order that you want, and the system will automatically reorder them. And I'm going to make myself last. And the reason I'm going to make myself last is because with my listing agreement, I can actually make it binding when I go to sign it, and just kind of saves a little bit of time. Then we have our client's name and contact information, so good to go here. Then we have this drop-down field, and it says needs to sign. This has a drop-down of all the different permissions that a recipient can have. The system will default to needs to sign, which means that there's going to be a signature field there, and they have an action of clicking sign. Some people may just need to view. If you set this up as needs to view, that means that they will be required to go in and view and review all the documents. It's not just going to send them an email. They will actually have to actively view them for them to be considered complete. Receives a copy. So if you want them just to have a copy of the document for the records, whether that be potentially a parent or a lender or a closing attorney, you can set them up to receive a copy. So after everyone's done or whatever, able to send a copy to them so they have it. Specify recipient, you don't need to do, and then witness for a signer. So if you have to have someone signing on behalf of another person, likelihood is you probably won't have to use this. In the event that you do have to use a witness for signer, double check with Lynn and Alita to make sure that you have everything that you need to do that legally. To the right of the needs to sign dropdown, we have a more dropdown, and we have 2 options here. We have an add access authentication and add private message. The add access authentication is if your client is a little worried about e-signing documents, you can add this access authentication code. And this will basically allows you to add a code of any type that you want that your client will have to fill in before he or she has access to sign any documents. So just to kind of help assuage some of the concerns that your clients may have that someone's going to break into their email and start buying houses on their behalf. So I'm going to click add more, add access authentication, And then I'm just going to type in whatever code that I want. So for today, I'm going to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're good to go. I don't actually want to include that today, so I'm just going to click discard, but just know that that is there if your clients have any concerns about e-signing. The other option is with more is add a private message. So if you want to send a message directly to one person and not everybody included in the envelope, you do that here. So I'm going to write one to Tony. So I'm going to say, hi, Tony. Please be sure to fill in and complete the seller's property disclosure and community association disclosure. Thank you, Nick. Because Tony's seller one, he's the one that's going to be matched to fill in all that information. So I just want to send a quick reminder to him so he doesn't breeze over it, because it is very easy just to go doop, 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 and be done and not actually fill in the information. Any questions about adding recipients, signing order, their permissions? All right. So now that we've added all of our recipients, we put them in the correct signing order. Now we're going to go down here to message all recipients. This is going to be a little email that will go with the Docusign documents. The email subject is going to default to please Docusign, which I recommend leaving that in there so that way your clients know that there's an action for them to do with Docusign. And then I'm going to type in the property address, and I'm going to say exclusive sale listing agreement and purchase and sale. So that way they know what documents they are signing. And most times I will have already talked to my clients and say, hey, I'm getting ready to send over this Docusign link. Please be sure to click on it, and you're going to fill out your listing agreement and your purchase and sale. You can add a quick message here if you wanted to. Hi, Tony and Pepper. Please review and e-sign the Docusign forms. Thank you, Nick. Perfect. So now I've written my message. Our next step is going to be to click next. That's going to take us to the envelope editor. But let's say you're like, oh, I'm not ready to send this yet, or something happens. You can always click save and close, and it will save all of this information. And you can come back at a later time. I'm going to click next because I want to go to the envelope editor. And that's going to be the last step before we send these documents for signature. All right, so there's a lot of information on this page. So let's walk through the layout and what everything is before we actually jump into the forms. Up here in the top left-hand corner, we have a little go back arrow. So in the event that you need to go back and change something, or you see that you realize that you made a mistake or left something out, you can always click go back here. Docusign saves the changes every couple seconds. However, if you manually add any fields and then go back and make changes to that document, it will erase those fields that you manually added. Below here, we have where it says Tony Stark, and it has the yellow dot, and there's a drop-down menu. And then if I click on that, I can see that it includes myself and Pepper, the other signers of this envelope, and we each have a color dot to the left of our names. You can see that the yellow here for Tony corresponds to all of these standard fields over here. If I select Pepper, the color of those standard fields change to blue. If I select myself, it changes to purple. And the reason we each have our own signing color is just to make it a little bit easier for us to visually identify who is responsible for which fields or not. The actual color is irrelevant. And every time you send an envelope, you may have a different color. So I'm purple in this envelope. Next time I may be yellow, and the time after that I may be blue. It doesn't matter. It's just there to help you visually ID where you need to fill in information and sign. Below here for standard fields, this is where we add all the fields for information that we're going to need from this form. So if we need a signature, an initial, a date signed, name, email, company, text box, checkbox, all of that right here, and we can just easily click and add that to the form. Here in the middle of the page is going to be the preview of the document, so we can go through and double check it, make sure we didn't miss any information. And if we did miss any information, we are able to add a text box with that info. So that way we don't have to go all the way back to the Documents tab and make the update. You want to change the zoom in amount, you can do that here. And then to the right of the preview is a list of all the documents. And you can expand this and it shows thumbnails of the document. So here's our exclusive seller listing agreement. I can scroll through the thumbnails. And then what's really handy dandy is right here on page 10, it has these tabs with the different colors coordinating that there's a signature field or a field that each one of us in the envelope is required for. So I can click on it and I can see here that here's a signature field that's mapped to Tony, one for Pepper, and then one for myself. Having these signature fields and date sign fields pre-populate and already be mapped is why we select pre-tagged roles. If I had selected room participants by accident, I would have had to manually add the signature field and date signed field for everybody on every document. So that is why we want to select pre-tagged roles. So that is a layout of the page. So I'm just going to scroll back up to the top so we can just give everything just a quick once over because, you know, things happen. I miss checkboxes. Sometimes they don't translate properly. Who knows? So I just want to give everything a once over. So scrolling through, looks like I'm already missing a legal description checkbox here. So I'm just going to add the checkbox. I'm going to click on the checkbox, move my mouse over, add that to where I want to add the checkbox, and then I can double click it and it'll add a check. So now it'll show that we have an attached exhibit of our limited warranty deed for the legal description. Scroll down, just double check all the information here. Everything looks good. Right, not missing anything. Just keep scrolling through all the explanation of the document. And then here we have the brochures that we've selected. We have our, that is weird. I don't know why other should not be listed. I don't know how that happened. But I'm gonna add a checkbox here next to legal description, double check that there. That is very funky. So I'm just gonna ignore that. And then I'm gonna scroll down here, special stipulations, where I've started typing in, I've had added my steps. Now you'll notice that they are text here. I can't edit them or change them, so they're good to go. Let's scroll down. Then we have our buyer's signatures right here. Then here's mine. Now I have, since I'm the last signer, I do have the ability to make this document binding, which is one of the benefits of having a signing order. To do that, I'm going to click on a text box. So I'm going to click text box and then come over here. I'm going to drag that text box to where I want to add it. And then I'm going to format it to fit. Just going to add that right there. And now you'll notice that this color purple is filled in. And that filled in color means that it is a required field. And required means that when I go to sign this, the system is going to stop me at this place to fill in the information. So when I'm signing, it's going to stop me to fill in my time and date here. So I'm going to right mouse click on this text box, copy, and then paste it. I'm going to add that text box there just to save me a little bit of time. And then I can also just add a date sign box right here. And that'll automatically add the date of when I sign. So this way, once everyone has completed signing, Docusign will automatically send the completed versions to everybody and it will make this listing agreement binding. So it just kind of saves me an extra step later on. Any questions so far on the information we've walked through in the envelope? All right. So we're going to scroll down. Now we get to the seller's property disclosure. Now remember, when we opened this up in the documents tab, it was blank. There wasn't anything for me to fill in. But now when I scroll down, I notice that all of these fields are mapped to yellow. Yellow is associated with Tony Stark, seller 1. But just like I mentioned before, when the color is filled in, that means that it's required. Since this is just outlined in yellow, when I click on the text field and my menu pops up over here on the right-hand side, It's not checked required, which means that when Tony goes to sign, the system is going to jump from required field to required fields, which would mean signature field to signature field and jump right over all these fields that he needs to fill in. I don't want Tony to do that because I don't want Tony to be like, the document's not working, Nick, you don't know what you're doing. Well, I do know what I'm doing. You just went a little fast and jumped right over everything. So a nice little workaround for that to prevent the system from jumping from signature field to signature field is here on the seller's property disclosure. What year is the main residential dwelling constructed? I'm going to select that text box and then I'm going to click required field. Now it's going to fill in yellow, so that's how I know it's now required. So when Tony goes to fill in this form, the system is going to stop and say, Tony, you have to put in a year here. It won't let you go on until you do. Now, from there, it's going to be much easier for him to go through and click all the little check boxes and fill in any additional text here. I don't know any of the answers to what he's going to select here, so I'm not going to make any of these required because I don't want to make something required that would then be incorrect information. But just by having this main dwelling resident, the main residential dwelling constructed text field should be good to go. So, and I'll just remind Tony, be sure to fill in all of the fields and everything's mapped yellow. Again, if you had not selected pre-tagged roles, if you had selected room participants, you would have had to go through and manually add every single one of these check boxes and text boxes. We are too busy being millionaire real estate agents to have the time to add all these individual boxes. So please be sure to select pre-tagged roles. Right, scrolling down, just double checking, making sure that there isn't anything that I missed. Everything looks good. Everything's mapped to Tony, so good to go here. Signature, date signed, good to go. We're going to scroll down. Our next is our community association disclosure, which is the same thing as our SPD. And I'll see here that all these fields are outlined in yellow, so I know that they are mapped to Tony, but they are not required. Well, I don't want Tony to jump over these fields as well. So I'm going to do the same thing as I'm going to make one of the text fields required. Now, I don't know what type of association Tony has in his neighborhood, and I'm not going to make a guess because I, again, don't want him to have to fill in any information incorrectly. So I'm going to leave all of these set as optional, and I'm going to scroll down here to name of association, and I'm going to select that text box, and then I'm going to make this required. Now, the system will stop here for Tony, and then it should be much easier for him then to see, oh, right, I have to fill in one of these boxes up here. That's correct. And now I have all of these additional text boxes below here that I need to fill in with the accurate and correct information. So we're good to go there. There's our initial fields. Here we have our affiliated marketing disclosure. Signature fields there. Identity theft or wire fraud. There we go. Now we have our purchase and sale. So we'll just go through here, just double check all of the information. And I'm going to do this pretty quickly because I'm getting low on time since I'm being very slow today. All right, everything looks good to go. So let's scroll down to our stipulations. So earlier I told you that there's a little secret that I can show you for the stipulations. So if you have some additional stipulations and they're not going to fit, you can just add a text box. So I'm going to select myself. So that way all the fields are mapped to myself, and I'm going to add a text box. And then I'm just going to expand that to fit here. And then I'm just going to start typing in this text box. So I'm going to start, here is some additional steps. More, lots more, even more. So you'll notice that here on the page, I have so many stipulations that this little text box has a scrolling bar. However, PDFs, you can't scroll through information. So what I can do is I can select all of the text, come over to my menu over here and go to formatting. And I can change my font size from a 9 to a 10, or excuse me, to a 7. Now, all those stipulations now fit in this text box. So that is a workaround if you need to add some more stipulations that won't fit from the detail or from the documents tab. However, use this sparingly because having such tiny font is not going to earn any friends with the co-op agent or the closing attorney. It's going to make it a little harder for them to read, and you don't want to look like you're trying to be shady or hide anything. You were just trying to minimize the amount of pages, but that is a workaround. I'm also going to unselect this so it is not a required field, and I'm going to check read only, so that way when everyone goes to sign, all of that text appears and no one has the ability to edit it. Scrolling down, we have our client signature page. And this is where I told you earlier I would show you how to hide our client's contact information. So to do that, I'm going to go all the way here to the far left. And I'm going to click on this pencil icon for pre-filled tools. And then I'm going to select line. And then I'm just going to drag and draw a line over my client's email address. I'm just going to go make it longer. And now it's going to be red. But when I click on to add it, here's my menu. So I can come over here to color. I can change that color to pick color to black, make it black. And then I can change the thickness all the way to 10. I can just move that over so it blocks out my client's email address. Good to go. Now I'm going to do the same thing for Pepper. So I'm going to right mouse click on it. I'm just going to, click Command C, Command V, and I'll just drag that down here. Now I have successfully blacked out both of my clients' email addresses without having to affect the emailing of the documents for signature. So I'm protecting their privacy. A black bar is not the most beautiful thing to see, but you know what? It is better than having an agent reach out to my client's directly. So scrolling down, here's signature, everything's good to go. So now I'm done. I'm ready to send this. If before you send, you want to do a quick double check, you can click on recipient preview. Then you can see what it would look like as Tony to sign this. And this is going to show you what it's like for Tony when he goes to sign. And up at the top, we have our desktop view. So if he were to sign on a computer, on a mobile tablet, see it's a little bit smaller, or on a phone. So let's say your client's like, hey, we really want to submit this offer, but we have a really fancy dinner reservations that we've had for 3 months. We cannot cancel them to sign these documents. I'll be like, you know what? Go to dinner, have a great time, but time is of the essence. So I'm going to go ahead and put these documents together and I'm going to email them to you, and I'll call you while you're at dinner. And so you can go ahead and sign them on your phone while you're waiting for your table. Perfect. Now, it's going to be hard for them to read it, but they have the ability to sign on their phone. So that is just an option. And you can click start here, and it will just kind of go through the process of what it's going to be like for them to sign. Now, it's not actually signing, it's just a recipient preview so you can see, but that is what you can do here. So I'm going to click X up in the top right-hand corner, and now I'm going to click send. And this is going to send the envelopes to Tony first to sign. So to do that, I'm going to open up my email really fast. Come over here. Let me open up my KWFA Tech. So here is the email. Please Docusign 1234 Main Street. I need to clean up this inbox. So here's my message from right now, 11:21. Here's my private message to Tony. Please be sure to fill in and complete the SPD and CAD, and then the message to both Tony and Pepper. So Tony is going to click Review Documents. And this is going to be the exact process of what it's like for your clients to sign. So we're going to go through for all of them. We're going to do it very quickly because I'm running out of time. So your clients will have to agree to use electronic records and signatures. Continue. Start. See how it just jumps to that first required field? Sign. It's going to ask to confirm the signature, adopt and sign. Now it jumps to that next required field, which I made this, what year is the main residential dwelling constructed? So we'll just do 2006. Now it's much easier for Tony to go through here and check all of these boxes. I'm not actually paying attention to what I'm checking, but I just want to show you how simple it is. And then, I need to add some additional info here or here. Date of last service, we'll do 6/1/2021. All right, I don't want to spend my time clicking on all these, so I'm just going to scroll down. I just want to click some, so that way I can show you something in just a moment. And then I'll check some of these. All right. Scrolling down, Tony's going to sign. It jumps here to the name of association. So it's really easy for Tony to see, oh, wow, there's some boxes up here for me to sign. So we have a mandatory homeowners association that is currently $1,000 and it is paid over 2 installments. Name of association. This was required. So he has to put in name of HOA, person name. So you can just see it's much easier. I'm just adding some lovely text characters here. There we go. Just go through here, check all the information that is correct. There's no special assessments, no litigation, no violations. Perfect. Initial, sign, sign, initial, sign. You can see my client's email address is blacked out. So once your client is finished signing, they're going to get the finish button either at the bottom of the page or up here at the top. They must click the finish. They must click finish. Then it's going to ask them if they want to create an account. They don't need to create an account. Let's give it a second to load. No, thank you. Then they need to get the you've finished signing page. That is very important because if they don't receive this, the system does not think that they have finished signing all their documents and will not send those documents on to the next person. So in this example, Pepper would not receive them. So let me come over here. I'm going to close this tab. And then I'm going to open up my personal email really quickly. So at the top of it should be my please Docusign. Here we go. Please Docusign. Here's my email to both Tony and Pepper. Notice Pepper does not have a private message. Pepper is going to click review documents. Agree to use electronic records and signatures. Continue. Start. Sign. Ask to confirm signature. Adopt and sign. Now you'll notice it jumped all the way to the end of the seller's property disclosure because Pepper doesn't have anywhere to sign or fill out on the seller's property disclosure. But if you scroll up, you can see all of the information that Tony added and checked is all right here. So it does give Pepper the ability to double check the information. So having the conversation beforehand, you can say, hey, Pepper, when you're signing, just be sure to scroll up and review it. And if there's anything that's missing or wrong, just let me know. So you can see all those little check boxes. Here are all the little things that are going to stay with the home. Pepper's going to sign. Same thing with the community association disclosure. She can review initial, sign, sign, initial, sign. All right, Pepper is done. So I'm going to click finish. I'm going to ask her to create an account. No, thank you. And now Pepper gets a you finished signing page. Perfect. So I'm going to go into my work email. And now it's going to say, please DocuSign. So now I know it's my turn. I can go directly into my envelope. I can click into my envelope. I guess this is lagging behind just a bit. Perfect. So now it shows that both seller 1 and seller 2 have signed. Now it's my turn. So I'm going to click sign up here. Let's go through the same process. Continue, start, sign, and then it takes me to that required field. So I'm gonna be able to make this binding. So I can say that it is 12 p.m. This goes binding this afternoon at noon, fill in, sign, and now I'm finished. Just click the finish button. Perfect. So now that my envelope is completed, I'm going to come over here to the Documents tab. And we'll give this a second. Let me come back over here. So this is Tony's email. We can see that he now has a completed please DocuSign 1234 Main Street. You can view the completed documents. He can click there, or he can scroll down, and DocuSign actually attaches all of the signed completed documents to the email. That's a benefit because in Georgia, we are required to send copies of signed documents to our clients to have them for their records. This just saves us that one step. And since I made it binding, the listing agreement will already be binding. So that is one step right there. So I'm going to go back to my DocuSign account. I'm going to refresh the page. And then I'm going to scroll down. And in my Room Docs folder, you can see I have all these new documents in here with the green check mark that say signed. So we have all of our signed documents here. So I want to move all the ones that are for my listing agreement. So I'm going to check all of them. And I want to move those into my listing agreement folder. So folder in current room, listing agreement, move. Just to kind of keep the organization going. So here we have all the signed PDFs. And then here's my signed purchase and sale agreement. If you want to combine these documents, you can by selecting all the documents you want to combine, and then select the combine icon here. And then you can give this new document name, new combined doc name, and you can move them into whichever order you want. So if you like to package up all of your documents, do a single document either for your client or for a co-op agent, this is how you would do that. Click save. The page will refresh, and this new combined document will be added into the Room Docs folder. So there it is. I'm just going to drag that into my listing folder. So we're at 11:30, so I'm going to kind of breeze through the next couple parts. But any questions on anything that we've talked through so far, signing? All right. So once we have all our signed documents that we need, now we have to submit them to Lynn and Alita for compliance review in Command. So to do that, I'm going to go back to Command. So I'm going to click on Command, and then I'm going to come over here into my listed folder, and I'm going to say, it's going to say attach files from. It's going to give me a couple options. My computer for manual. So if I have anything on my computer that I need to upload, I can do that, or I can select DocuSign. When I select DocuSign, it's going to give me the ability to click on this. Actually, I'm sorry, let me refresh this just so it can relink back up. Perfect. So now that it's connected to DocuSign, I click on the select, and it's going to show all of the documents that I have in my folders and all the signed versions of them. So here we're looking for our listing agreement. Here we have our exclusive seller listing agreement signed. So I can click on that and automatically adds it here. Community association disclosure, I can do the same thing here. See, it's super simple to go through and add the documents from seller's property disclosure, add these from DocuSign. Now, if you had created your DocuSign account first, you would not be able to have this functionality. So this is one of the benefits. This is the main benefit of starting your transaction in Command, creating your room, and now they're synced. So that way, just kind of saves you a little bit of time. So now I've added all of my documents here. I could click submit to MC, and this would let Lynn and Alita know, hey, I have a new listing that I need you to review, or I'm under contract, and they will go in and review it. That is the DocuSign training for this morning. What questions do you have? What can I clarify for you? Is there anything you thought you would see this morning that you didn't that I can show you real quickly? I know we're a little over time, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
How often is the class offered?
So I do this DocuSign training every other Friday, so twice a month. And then I'm also going to upload this video to the YouTube channel. So if you are going through and playing in DocuSign or putting together documents, you can follow along if you'd like.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I'll let you guys go. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. And please don't hesitate to reach out with any DocuSign questions or command questions. You can always email me, call me, text me, whatever you need.
One question.
Yeah.
You said that DocuSign 2.0 is on YouTube too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those will be in like the specific, there's 2 additional DocuSign videos that I have up there. So
Thank you, Nick.
you are welcome. All right, you guys have a great rest of your Friday and a wonderful weekend. And I will see you all soon.